If you're a mom, you're a superhero. That's right. Own it. We possess a unique superpower of intuition, a sixth sense for what our kids are up to, how they feel, what they want, and when they want it. Yep, it's amazing. I call this mom sense. Oftentimes, we are Googling for answers, joining Facebook groups, or relegating to taking unsolicited advice from our friends when all we have to do is listen to that voice inside us. No, not the one that's telling you you're fat. The other voice, the one that seems to know everything when it comes to your kids and leaves you feeling confident, empowered, purposeful, and all things #mom goals. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta, and I'm a mother of twin toddlers and a baby, double the fun plus one. And I can honestly say that now that I'm a mom, I feel like my life is just getting started. On my podcast, I interview industry experts and real-life mamas on their mom sense experiences, tackling topics like how to teach kids to meditate, what it takes to have the marriage you've always dreamed of, and how to master your car makeup routine. Grab your latte, that's probably ice cold by now, and take a listen to That's Total Mom Sense. Hello there, mamas. Welcome to another episode of That's Total Mom Sense. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. Her name is Melanie Chandra. You may recognize her from her roles on ABC's medical drama Code Black, HBO's The Brink, and films including Love, Lies, and Seeta and For Here to Go, which is currently on Netflix. A little side story I want to share is that we met back in 2006. We were both in this national South Asian pageant when we were in our early 20s. Melanie won Miss India America, and I won Miss India East Coast. And it's I feel like we were children back then. It's really cool to think that we met at rehearsals, and then here we are on stage with our crowns and sashes, and it's definitely like a common story for Indian women who are in media and entertainment and performing. So nice little coming of age story there. And now here we are over a decade later, and we're moms. We made humans, which is incredible. And so what you may not know is that Mel is a super mom to her 1-year-old daughter, Arya, and she's working on some really groundbreaking projects right now, including her newly produced show, Surina and Mel. So Mel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah. So tell us about your world of entertainment and how you broke into the industry.
Sure. So I broke in through our pageant. No, just kidding. Through the Miss India America pageant. No, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an actress, but I really had no point of reference, with immigrant parents from India and growing up in a pretty small white town in middle America. The only faces I saw on TV were none that looked like me. I think there was Cal Penn or Saritha Chowdhury and Mississippi Masala. And so I kind of put those dreams aside because I didn't know it was even possible. Fast forward years later, I find myself in New York City. I just gotten my engineering degree, which is obviously such a training ground for acting. But I got my degree, came to New York City to work, and I came across an Indian American actress. Her name is Pooja Kumar. Do you happen to know Pooja?
Yes. And you know what? She's a pageant winner herself. I remember she emceed one of the local pageants in New Jersey. So yeah. But yeah, of course. And she's a phenomenal actress and producer.
Yeah. So I met this beautiful, kind woman, and I was just starstruck. I was like, wow, another Indian woman is an actress. It was the first one I'd ever met in my life. And I was just so intrigued. And I started talking to her more about it. And she gave me some pointers. And so I started, taking classes. And, before I knew it, I was living two lives because I was working at this corporate job, 60 hours a week in management consulting. And then I was taking all these acting classes on the side or working on these podunk student films, whatever it was to get in front of the camera or on stage. And I found my health actually deteriorating in a very strange way. But basically, I wasn't taking care of myself. I was stressed out with work. I was, cultivating this creative part of me. And yeah, not many people know this, but I'll share this with you here, is this was like in the thick of things. I actually had a seizure at work.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
yeah, I mean, I'm totally fine now. I had to take some time off to figure out what was going wrong, but it was an ultimatum. It was like, hey, we want to send you, work was saying they wanted to send me away to a different city to work for 6 months. And my heart was like, oh my God, but I really love all this, you know, art that I'm creating here. I know it sounds like super millennial and all that.
No, but you were at your brink. You needed to kind of make a choice, I guess.
Yeah, and so my whole body like short circuited, and then I had to take time back to figure out what was going on with my health, and then I chose to, take a risk and jump into acting, and yeah, had some bumps along the way, but that's now what I do full time. But now I'm also producing as well, which is something you touched upon in the intro. So the reason I got into producing was I had I've been always wanting to tell stories. And as an actor, that's one way of doing it. But I just had so many ideas in my head for stories that need to be told. And I didn't really get around to it until I was pregnant. And, as an actress who's starting to show, like when you're 6 months or whatever, 4 or 5, 6 months, you're not really invited to audition. It's really hard to get hired as a pregnant woman. I mean, in any industry, it's not just acting.
So do you feel like your career as an actor and producer took off after motherhood?
I would say my producing career for sure. I would say, there's so many different starts, false starts, I guess you can say. And with acting, when I first moved to LA for, 2 years, I hit it big, not big, but I had some roles booked, and then I had a lull for like a year, and then I had something smaller booked, and then I had a lull for a year, and then I first booked my first series regular on Code Black, and I was engaged at that time. But that was hard because the first 2 years of my life, where I was long distance with my husband, I just got married and then ended up working on the show. It was LA, New York. And then I got pregnant, and then acting slowed down, but then producing picked up. But I'm very much dedicated to acting again. I just shot, independent film in Chicago a few weeks ago. And so I'm slowly but surely reestablishing myself again in the acting world. But producing stuff, man, it's so rewarding. And I think that motherhood definitely fueled me in a way I didn't think was possible.
Wow, that's so cool. I want to take it back a little and kind of get your perspective on being a woman in the industry, and I guess more specifically, a brown woman in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, like I'm personally anti stereotypes. I feel like we shouldn't have to justify that, but it is the kind of harsh reality when you're pitching to networks of, you're a brown woman on TV. So what
Mm-hmm.
was that like, well before you had your daughter?
I'm not one to complain or point fingers at anyone. But coming from a place where I've thought about this for a while, I've experienced it. There's challenges. Like I had managers that I felt like I was looked at as more of like as a commodity, like an Indian actress. And so where can I plug in an Indian actress? And like I said, it's not one person's fault. That's just kind of the nature of this entertainment space where as actors, you're treated as products essentially. And yeah, and just pawns in this greater like strategic game. And so when you're just starting out, it's hard to have a say when you don't have the credits for for people to listen to you, to command authority. And
Right.
so it's hard. One of the pieces of advice I got when I was starting my career, which I didn't really take, but I'll just share it with you, was don't do Indian roles like limited to your race when you start, because you'll get pigeonholed into it.
Right.
But I didn't actually agree with that, because I thought, your community, so whether you're, Black, Indian, Asian, whatever it is, like your community is there to support you. So if those are your first roles, like that's great. And it's only your mindset that can really limit you to expanding out from there. So I would say the good thing about it is you do have support from other people in your community, whether it's collaborating with them or in their projects or writing your own stories. But then when you take the next leap, it gets a little harder, right? And there are agents and managers out there who will only see you as one thing. And they will only see you as, okay, there's a doctor role casting. Now I'm going to call you audition for it. Not for like the leading lady. So my advice is always just to work with people that see you more than your skin color. That's the only way. You have to build the right team that's on the same page as you.
Oh, that's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how you and your husband met. I know you met back in college, but I feel like that's a very significant part of your story, and then of you becoming a family. So tell us a little about him.
Okay. So my husband and I met when he was a senior and I was a freshman. We were both at Stanford University, and I was actually on a date with his best friend and not like a date, but a formal, like those, formal dance parties. So his best friend asked me to go with him. And so I was at this event, and my husband Neeraj was there too. And I found myself really hitting it off with Neeraj. But I didn't really think twice. I was just like, oh, he's super nice and sweet. And then it didn't work out with his friend and I, and that was more of like just a fun thing. It wasn't like a serious, in college you just go to the parties. He's like, hey, do you want to come as far as me? So it was kind of one of those things. But my husband asked his friend, like, hey, dude, did it work out with that girl? I was like, nah. And so at least that was the story. And so he asked me out on a date, but he asked me out like 5 times because I was like this very timid freshman girl. Like I was social, but I was really kind of, I guess, protective when it came to like dating and anything serious and all that. And one of my RAs in my freshman dorm was like, oh, he's a senior, like be careful. And, it's almost graduation. Who knows what their attention is. So I was kind of like freaked out.
Yeah, rightfully so. And, parents.
So he asked me out like 5 times. I said no. And then finally we agreed to lunch. And then it was really nice. But then he graduated. He moved out to New York. And then years later, I happened to be out in New York City. I'm still in college. I was out in New York City for a weekend, and I randomly bumped into him at a bar.
Get out.
Yeah. Without saying a word to him for 3 years. We just bumped into each other. And I was like, awkward.
Wow. That's serendipity, kismet, whatever you want to call it. Wow.
Yeah. And that's where it began.
Did you guys kind of talk about having a family one day? I feel like sometimes it's just something that comes up early on, or it's like, okay, we'll get married and then tackle it.
Well, at our second date, he was like, I think I want to marry you. And I was like,
oh my goodness, how cute is that?
And I was like, I think I want to marry you too. It took us many years later to actually get married because we were so young. But we always knew we wanted to end up with each other. And we did. And it wasn't, I don't know, honestly, I don't know when the discussion about kids came in, but we always knew we wanted some. It wasn't like we were always on the same page that we wanted kids. We wanted 2. Well, I want 2. He wanted like 5. He's like, why not build a dynasty? I'm like, well, you're not the one popping them out.
What was it like when you finally had Arya?
Well, it was, the best thing that ever happened, right? It was, as you get older, you realize it's so hard it can be very hard to have kids. And I had a miscarriage my first go round, and everything happens for a reason. It was really early on. So it's like, I've heard really gut-wrenching stories. It was hard for us, but it made us really, really appreciate when the second pregnancy came around and everything was fine. I felt, very grateful. I felt supported by my husband, and, it was nice because it brought together all of our families, the idea of like having a baby. And I tried to take care of myself just as much as possible. I was still kind of working through it and all this producing stuff, but I kept going. I wanted to stay, intellectually challenged and physically like take care of myself. And fortunately, it was a pretty smooth pregnancy. I know not many people can say that, but like, yeah, I'm so grateful that I had a pretty smooth pregnancy. And yeah, with labor, obviously that hurts. But,
So I didn't feel a thing, but yeah.
I mean, I had an epidural too, but like leading up to it, it was so painful. And the recovery, that is the worst. That no one tells you about the recovery. Like,
no, yeah. There's this post that Chrissy Teigen put on Instagram where she was like, I didn't know me and my baby would be coming home in diapers. Yeah, recovery is a bitch for sure. But were you pregnant when you were actually filming Code Black? Like, what was like that like when you first found out?
So actually, we were on hiatus of Code Black when I had gotten pregnant, at least the first go round. And so then I thought, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to go back for the third season. They'll have to write it in. And then that didn't work out. And then I got pregnant again. I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'll still go back and they'll work it in. But yeah, unfortunately, they had to make a lot of changes on the show. So, my character, a couple other characters didn't like make the cut. They decided to just change up storylines, change up writers, cut down budgets. So unfortunately, my character actually didn't come back for the third season. So it was challenging for me, obviously creatively. Like I enjoyed being able to act for a living. But also like I was kind of put in a position where I'm like, wow, I'm back in this. Now I'm pregnant and I don't have any guaranteed work. When you're in a series regular contract, they need to work with it, but to be a pregnant woman trying to get work again in any industry, do you know how hard that is?
Yeah.
So from me, it was like it was like, it was horrible timing, but it all happens for a reason because that's when I started producing Serena and Mel. I would not have been able to have the time to do that. The HBO series, which is called Attachment, and Serena and Mel, these are my two projects. Both of those would not have worked out if I had still been working on Code Black. And with Surina and Mel, I produced and starred in the pilot for it when I was 7 months pregnant. And so for me, I was able to hire a team to shoot around my baby bump. And that was pretty cool. There was another girl, another actress in our show was pregnant too. So it was awesome. Like it was actually a really empowering experience, not having to be bossed around, but being the one that got to make the decisions and support all the other women.
That's so cool that that you and another actress were both going through this. I feel like that just makes you guys superheroes to like, you were memorizing your scripts and working these long hours and like on camera, behind the camera, like, all while producing a baby. That's no joke.
Mm-hmm. It was exhausting. I wouldn't like recommend it to everybody, but like it was less than a week. So I was able to like manage it for that much, but it was hard. Yeah.
Wow. It's like, excuse me while I puke real quick. Yeah. How was it working with Serena, one of your best friends?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, the reason we want to do the show, one of the reasons, is like you get to work with your best friends and people you enjoy. We just worked so well together ever since like the first day we met and decided to write things. It's like we have no shortage of ideas. And I think we like really complement each other. Like in the show, we play heightened versions of ourselves. So Melanie, my character, is like the grounded one and composed and super type A. And then she's more, raw and impulsive and fun. Like she's way cooler than me. And so she helps bring me out of my shell and then I helped ground her. And so I think we do that in real life. But, what's cool about our show is we really get to capture all the nuances of that sort of dynamic, which I think is relatable. I think a lot of people can relate to it. And yeah, we just hope we get to tell these stories that obviously come from a real place. I hope we can continue to tell these stories together. I mean, most of what I've done in life, I haven't been able to do by myself. Like I always have to align with people that know how to do things that I don't know, or people I look up to. It's, building an organization, a show, whatever it might be, it involves other people. So it's like, you got to like the people you work with. You got to love the people you work with, right? You have to know that you're going to be able to overcome any hiccups that come your way.
No, I wanted to say that this is such a beautiful thing because as a team, you can build something larger than yourselves. So walk us through a day in the life. And I know with a 1-year-old, it must be really hectic because she's walking around now. But if you could just think back to like when you first had Arya, you're like, I guess you're wrapping on the show and then pitching and like nursing and like late nights, like walk us through that phase.
Oh my God. Well, if we're going back that far, it was hard because I had a deadline for when I wanted to finish post-production on our Surina and Mel pilot. And that was maybe like 2 months postpartum. And I'm working with, people in, like, our director happened to be in India during that time. Our writer was in LA. Surina and I were in New York. Our editor was all over the place. So my day in the life was like wake up, breastfeed, and or pump, like eating. I had issues with, it was hard for me to breastfeed or get my milk supply up. So I just remember, just eating oatmeal and taking all of my supplements and then pumping every few hours to make sure the supply was good. I have to like step out for meetings if I needed to, come back and pump or breastfeed, whatever.
It's like this, like, alarm that follows you everywhere.
Yeah, like it's all so vague so I might be getting the order of things wrong, but it was just like, I just know I was constantly connected to this pump and this child that needed milk. It's like you can't step out for more than like 2 hours and do something. It was really hard. And then meanwhile, you're trying to play. My parents were in town for a little bit, so it was nice. And then we had in-laws visiting, but you also want to be, when you have other family members in your space, you still want to be polite and take care of them. And so it's hard for you to be completely, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I can completely relate. When my parents came, when I had the twins, I mean, we had, a night nurse for the beginning and then a nanny. But like, I feel like because of the whole breastfeeding process and like being, just like the Walking Dead all day long, like, yeah, I was not a good host at all. Like, I didn't like cook anything or ask if they ate, and that's just so not who I am. So yeah, it makes you like out of place in that way.
Yeah. But it was nice. My mom was there and she definitely cooked for me. We did have like a baby nurse for a little bit, so that helped. Just I wouldn't be able to go back to doing any sort of work. But with this deadline that I had, my sleeping hours were all off anywhere. So in order for me to do a call with India and LA, like I would be doing these things at 2 a.m. and no one knew I was pumping like during all of these calls.
It's like in the background.
Yeah, I would just like mute myself when I wasn't talking. But like,
yeah,
every day it was like hours working on this thing. It was crazy, but I was so fueled by it too. I was fueled to obviously take care of my daughter, but also like finish this project because, in a way, like I wanted my daughter to be proud of me too. I want her to know that like her mom is still working towards accomplishing her goals.
Absolutely. I think that's what's so significant about all this is that you're a role model for Arya in this way.
You are too for your kiddos.
Thank you. So now tell us about what it's like with a 1-year-old and you're traveling for pitches. You did one recently, and you and Surina were with Cal Penn. So what was that like? I mean, what is that like? You're on the road.
Yeah. It's so hard because you really have to limit your time when you're away. So, for example, I did take her to Chicago when I was filming a short film 2 weeks ago, and it was like a good 12 days. And so, but I was able to stay at home with my parents because they live in Chicago. That was the only reason I took her. Because obviously, if I'm going somewhere random, I don't know. I haven't been in that position yet where if I've been asked to, go to like Vancouver for 2 weeks and film, and I would have to bring a caretaker, so people do that. That's a consideration. But this last trip to California for these Surina and Mel pitches, like I said, I had to go in and out because I wanted to minimize time away from Arya. And that was a trip I knew I couldn't bring her because it was short. It was, 5 days, but I mean, which feels like an eternity. But also I knew I would be so into zone and like, we had to like really, it was just long days that I'd probably barely even see her, and I didn't want her to, I wanted my husband to spend time with her as well. And so it was hard, but yeah, it's like, okay, I'll fly in before the first meeting and leave right after the last meeting at odd hours. So it's one of those things.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that must have been so tiring. And I totally get it. I think it would have just been more conducive for you and the team to be productive, to just get shit done while you're there, and no kids, no nothing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But it's not always going to be like that. That's a thing about entertainment and being an entrepreneur and what you're doing. Things are like project to project based, and you have no idea what's going to come at you next. So you just always have to figure it out as you go along.
Yes, absolutely. One thing that I love that you and Neeraj do is I feel like you still make it a point to have a social life and bring Arya along, whether you're going to, maybe like family weddings or like a picnic, so tell us about that. How do you do that? Do you have any tricks up your sleeve when you are, doing any kind of events or outings with a baby?
Yeah, we've always said this, even before we had kids, that we wanted to make sure that we're incorporating Arya into our life and not just changing our lives completely. Obviously, so many things change, but in a good way. So like, for weekends, and we'll just bring her out to brunches in the city and early dinners in the city. We don't try to keep her holed up in our apartment. It's okay if her sleep schedule is slightly off on the weekends, but we think it's very important for her to get out and be exposed to all sorts of people. And, we went traveling with her when she was 3 months. We went to Paris. I'd never been to Paris, but now my daughter at 3 months has already been to Paris.
Has her passport stamped?
Has her passport stamped many times. We took her to Mexico briefly for a wedding. We what else would we do? We're taking her actually to the place we got married. Tomorrow we leave. Yeah, tomorrow we leave to go back to Turks and Caicos, which is where Neeraj and I got married. And we're going to go there for our 4-year anniversary and bringing Arya with us.
That's so sweet. And now you have a new addition that you're bringing with you to create new memories with, and you can have Arya meet the staff at the resort and all that.
Yeah, it'll be so nice.
Yeah. Tell us about Arya's personality. Is she more like you or Neeraj, or a little bit of both?
Oh, she's definitely both. So she is like me because she's really smiley. Like when I was a kid, I was really smiley and playful with people. But she's also extremely tenacious. And I think that comes from my husband. If she wants something, she will not back down, which I think is really good for a girl. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. And what is your advice for moms who want to break into the industry? I mean, there's women who know that eventually they do want to start a family. So that's something that they have to kind of consider early on. And then there are those who are already moms. So what's your advice for them kind of navigating both worlds?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I haven't gotten it from the perspective of a mom trying to break in. I think a great way to make an entrance is to create your own content if you can produce something and get it into the hands of the right people. It's just hard. Auditioning your way up is hard. And so if you can come at it from the other side of creating your own opportunities, you'll definitely stand out. Also just make sure, you're training, you're taking a good acting class and meeting other people in the industry. The more the more people can help you out and you can collaborate with one day. But so, training is obviously the best way to start, but also start thinking about what is a unique story that you want to tell, who do you want to tell it to, and how do you make that and get it into the right hands? So I would try those two things.
And I guess it kind of helps to have a village to help you out to fill in the gaps when you need. So can you tell us about like your village, like who helps you when you're, in the zone and you're focusing on your work and the strides you're making in your career?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have my reps now. I have my agents and my managers that obviously work with me to get me the right auditions and do negotiations and all that, and guide me in my career. But I also have like great friends and mentors and my husband that can support me like emotionally. It does get really challenging. It's not easy. It's like booking a role in a primetime TV show is like winning the lottery. Like that's what the odds are like.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true. And what about your village for Arya?
Yeah. I mean, obviously my husband, but my parents, his parents, our siblings. We have a great nanny we love. We have friends, other friends here in New York with kids, and I think we're trying to do more and more play dates. So I think that's our village.
Yeah, that's so great. I wanted to touch on Hospital for Hope. Tell us about that, and then maybe how you probably look at it in a different lens now that you're a mother and you started this charity helping children.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was the idea for Hospital for Hope was born out of college, actually. So a couple of my friends and I would volunteered in India one summer through a student organization. And after we graduated, we still kind of wanted to work with this village and thought we could address their greatest need, which was a hospital. This village didn't have one for it takes like 5 hours to drive to the nearest hospital in that area. So we were all working like young professionals, had resources, networks, and we just raised a lot of money and got some partners in the ground in India. And built this hospital that is now like serving thousands of patients every month, which is really cool. Now that I have a daughter and I think back to whether it's Hospital for Hope or any of these other organizations that empower and help young kids, especially girls, it like really hits me. I'm sure it's the same thing for you too. It's just like, wow, it's like you care about kids before you have them, but then you have them, and it takes on a whole new meaning to help love and nurture a young child and make sure that they're able to achieve their goals in life and be empowered. So it's just, I get really emotional thinking about it.
Yeah, I think of how privileged our children are, and how there's so many parts of the world that don't have the basic needs that we have. And I mean, it breaks my heart to think that children are living day to day like this, and moms too are doing the best that they can with the resources that they have. So yeah, it's great that you've created an initiative like this, because, raising kids is hard, and, to think of the challenges that they go through, not having a hospital or not having those healthcare needs or clean water, or the access to education that we have is just, it's really, really heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now I want to ask you about your mom sense moment. So, what was really the impetus for this show was a mother's own sixth sense, about her kids. And so if you and Arya kind of had a moment like this where you were like, I want to do it this way, and I feel like this is the best way for her because I just know. Do you have like an anecdote you could share with us about that?
Sure. This weird thing happened maybe like when Arya was 2 or 3 months in. I was having a nightmare myself, and then I woke up and then I heard Arya crying, and it was like a particular cry. And my husband woke up and he's like, "Oh, do we need me to feed her?" I'm like, No, I just think she's having a nightmare." And and I was just like, just let it ride out. And the cry was just so different than anything I heard before. And it was something that I felt in my body. Like I had just had a nightmare. And then after a few minutes, she calmed down and went back to bed. And but prior to that, she wakes up and she's hungry and you feed her, but I'm like, we don't have to do it for this one. I know it's happening. And, there's been moments recently now that Arya's on solids and she is at that stage where she's pushing all of her food away. Even if it's freshly made that day, either me or the nanny or whatever. And it's like, okay, you should eat this. It's really good for you. But for some reason, like sometimes I just know I'm like, oh, she doesn't feel like this. You know what? This is what I feel like eating right now as a mom. And then I make it from scratch and then I give it to her and she's like, oh yeah, this is what I want too. It's like her hunger cues are my hunger cues. Like I know what she's craving because it's exactly what I'm craving. It's like the weirdest thing.
Let's not forget our quote of the day. So can you share a quote that you live by?
Yeah, one of the quotes, I didn't come this far to only come this far.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So it's important for us as moms too. Like I have all these dreams and ambitions prior to having Arya, and like I've worked so hard and I want to keep going, because like I said, I want to make the world a better place for my daughter. And a lot of that comes from completing some of the goals that I set out to do for myself that I worked really, really hard for. So, I think being a mom is challenging, but it's also empowering.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just paving the way for your daughter and other moms and kids, and that's just an incredible thing. It's now time for Mom Haul, when we share products we love.
Well, one, from a beauty standpoint, I remember when I was like breastfeeding and then just finished my skin looked like death. And it was just like all the nutrients in life had been sucked out of it. One product I really liked was Sunday Riley has this Juno superfood face oil. And I just put a little bit of that with like my sunscreen or with my foundation. And it gets me that like nice glow that I have when I was pregnant, which you quickly lose after you have the baby. And so there's that. And I also really like that that Miracle 360 cup, the one that Munchkins make. So those two.
So anything else you want to share with our listeners today?
No, I think this is a really cool idea. I'm excited for this podcast. I wish I had listened to this podcast when I was like pregnant. I would have learned. I would have been a little bit more prepared, I think, once I got into mommyhood.
Yeah, no, but you're helping other moms and especially other first-time moms like feel at ease and navigate this process, because it is one like no other in our life. And how can our listeners find you and, support your projects?
Oh, sure. Well, you mean on social media, you can follow me at Melanie Chandra, both on Instagram and Twitter. And what else? Yeah, just, and Surina and Mel, we've built kind of this like cult social media following. So you can follow at Surina and Mel as well, both on Instagram and Facebook, and just, keep passing along the word. This show, both my shows I'm working on are trying to really showcase Indian American women in ways they haven't been seen before on mainstream TV, like just breaking all the stereotypes that exist. So hopefully you guys can support and we can see both of these shows on TV in the next year or two. That'd be great.
So exciting. Thank you so much for joining us, Mel. You are shattering the glass ceiling and moving the needle in your own right. And we're all here to support you. So excited to share this with the world and have you in our corner. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some great takeaways from my chat with Melanie. Tune in to other episodes and browse my YouTube videos and blog posts on my website, thatstotalmomsense.com. If you have any suggestions for show topics or guests I should invite on the show, or are seeking advice with your personal journey through pregnancy or parenting, or just want to say hi, I'd love to hear from you. Write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. Remember, always trust your mom sense. Stay strong, supermamas. See you next time. That's Total Mom Sense.